Now it's time for perspective on the programme, and Sudan's horror knows no bounds. That is the quote from the UN's human rights chief as the UN reported the death of at least another 40 civilians as the rapid support forces launched coordinated attacks from multiple directions on the besieged city of El Fasher and Abu Shouk camp. The figure bringing to a total of 540 people killed in the North Darfur region of the country in the last 3 weeks alone. The actual death toll, though, said to be probably far higher. It comes amid a continuing spike in violence in the conflict that is now into its third year and has claimed tens of thousands, of course, of lives. So joining us now from Nairobi is advocacy manager of the Norwegian Refugee Council, Mathilde Vu. Thanks very much for joining us on the programme. But the situation in Sudan is a story we've tried to follow regularly here on Perspective, just to ensure people still talk about it amid, of course, the other wars that we do talk about regularly, like Ukraine and Gaza. But tell us now how bad the situation is, and is it the worst it's ever been?
It is the worst it's ever been. And actually, I think that in the month of April, it's been the bloodiest month for civilians. You just talked about 500 people basically slaughtered in North Darfur after a year of being starved. There's been also a massacre in Khartoum, the capital city, just a few days ago, and another massacre, perhaps killing hundreds of people in the Kordofan. So it's probably the month of April, the bloodiest month for civilians. And what's really terrible about it is that it's also, the months where we sort of commemorated the 2-year anniversary of the war. So what it means is that it's been 2 years of horror, and it's not the end.
And what does that mean for people living there in terms of being able to get food or in terms of being able to flee that violence?
They don't have the basics. Right now in North Darfur, in Al Fasher, the city that has been besieged for the past year, people are starving. We are hearing people who are having to eat charcoal. We have people who are just getting, with like boiled leaves. People have to flee, but when they flee, they basically are faced with people attacking them, people raping them on the way, looting them. They arrive in the next place of safety in total destitution, totally traumatized by what they've been through. And this is not the end, because once they arrive in a place of safety, there's barely enough for them to actually, get by. We humanitarians are really struggling to cover the basics. And yes, so people are dying of hunger right now and thirst in Sudan.
Yeah, what are you able to do? I mean, we've heard as well, haven't we, of humanitarian workers being killed. I mean, is there anything you can do? We just saw some images while you were talking there, in fact, of people unloading sacks of grain, that kind of thing.
We are managing to work. We are managing to get assistance into Darfur, get assistance into the Kordofan and those places that are, very difficult to reach because of the attacks. What is the most impressive is how Sudanese themselves are helping. They're more than helping, they're saving lives. We have basically thousands and thousands of volunteers across Sudan. They're not carrying any logo, they're not, working for any organization, but they are set up, for example, communal kitchen, they set up evacuation and so on. These are the people who are saving lives. But I have to say, to be honest, we're delaying death. That's really what it is at the moment, because we have so little when it comes to resource. We're just not able to access people in time in the places that they're getting hit. And to be honest, once they reach us, there's very little we can do to actually provide them dignified living condition. And we really are at, a somber, very difficult, dark time for Sudan and Sudanese.
You mentioned a little earlier the capital, Khartoum. We did have the story a few weeks back now that the rapid support forces have been driven out of Khartoum, although they are still said to be shelling parts of it. It does sound as though the situation there is still difficult, even though a few weeks ago we had that story of them being driven out.
Takeover of the capital by the Sudanese armed forces doesn't mean the end of the war. and there are people who are returning back to Khartoum with hope. What they find in Khartoum is destruction. It's a high level of contamination from unexplosive devices. There's no basic services, and we know that they can be hit any time by another attack. Like, what is really important for people to understand when they observe Sudan is that this is not the end. It's not the end at all. As I said, like, the month of April was the most dangerous month for civilians. And there's still all across Khartoum, all across the country, people who are just like not meeting the basics, not having a toilet, cannot eat, obviously do not go to school, do not reach, do not get any medical assistance. This is what the country is at the moment.
And realistically, is there anything that anybody can do to change that? I mean, the international community, short of sending thousands of troops to try and keep the peace in Sudan, that nothing else is going to make any difference, is it?
What would make a difference is if the international community actually, raised to the occasion and gathered at very, very high level, really putting the political capital that is needed to, one, exert, basically push the warring parties to protect civilians and let humanitarian assistance reach the people in need, which is not the case at the moment. And second, to put pressure on all those states that are fueling the conflict as well and that are supporting the warring parties. And at the moment, sadly, this is not happening. On the 15th of April, the international community met in London, and they couldn't agree on simple words such as protection of civilians, such as humanitarian access. So that really means that they are not putting the effort that is needed in order to stop the bloodshed and the slaughter that is happening.
Mathilde Vu, good to have you on the programme today. Mathilde Vu from the Norwegian Refugee Council, joining us there from Nairobi. Thank you very much.